Hello, I'm David Cass. I'm joined today by Brian Stone from Conceal.io, and we're going to talk a little bit about zero trust, browser security, and how everything is really evolving in today's environment. So, Brian, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So, the concept of, I guess, when you look back about 10 years, the whole sandboxing stuff has been around, discussed, tried, hasn't really been as effective as everybody hoped. And, zero trust is really, hopefully, more than a buzzword for everybody nowadays, that really to implement zero trust effectively, you have to really start at the endpoints almost. And, browsers are a part of everyone's life at this point in time, no matter what you interact with. So if you really want to talk about, we'll start off, what are you guys doing at Conceal and how has this kind of environment changed?
Yeah, you're exactly right. 80% of users are spending 80% of their day in their browser to do their jobs and also to blend some of their personal activities, right? Check bank accounts, pay bills, and things like that. And so the browser is becoming more and more critical part of the stack that we need to be aware of. But to your point, browser isolation, sandboxing, those web sessions is not new. It's been around for over 10 years, and we said if we were going to offer this as a way to combat sort of what we think are modern endpoint threats, web-borne threats, that we needed to really nail a couple of things. And one of those is the user experience. It just has to be seamless for that user. I think traditional solutions have been slow. They were 100% in isolation all the time, and really, had some performance issues, and also the rendering of the content that the user wanted to go was not spot on. If they were doing, looking at videos or going to certain types of JavaScripted sites that it just didn't render properly. So we thought we could change the game in a couple of ways, and we sort of created what we call dynamic isolation. So it's really reading that URL to look at it from an intelligence and policy standpoint, to say, what do we know about it? Is this, first of all, a place that the user should be allowed to go? If so, what do we know from a threat intel perspective? And is this risky? Or is it whitelisted? Is it a site like Salesforce.com, or I just need to go to every day to do my job? Let's go ahead and whitelist some of that. Stay out of the way of those transactions. But on those unknowns, that's really where we can quickly spin up an isolated browser session and protect that user. Let the session play out. It's where we just don't have enough information to determine a level of risk or a level of acceptance. And so we just bubble wrap that transaction, let it play out. The other thing we've added is another capability to help the user with credential theft. So if the page that they're surfing to is asking for them to log in with credentials, we're using some computer vision technology, which is sort of a subset of AI, to really say, at a code level and at a computer level, is this actually the login page, that the legitimate login page that is asking for credentials? If it's not, we lock those fields down and give the user some cues on what we think is suspicious about that page. So really trying to stop, sort of the malware dynamically, and then through the browser isolation, and then the credential theft, sort of a 1-2 punch, and package that up as an easy browser extension that's lightweight and easy, just runs in the background.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, user experience is super important, because if the user experience is bad, we all know that people just find a way around it, or they turn it off. And the browser is so important because, as you mentioned, it's the primary attack vector for, are you getting malware, are you getting phished, or is somebody trying to unauthorized access to your sensitive data? So it really, you need that whole integrated experience. So as you've been kind of doing that, I guess, anomaly analysis around, sites that are questionable versus the allow and deny listing, what kind of insights have you gained?
Yeah, it's definitely the subset of transactions, because SWAGs, secure web gateways, do a decent job. Secure email gateways do a decent job of filtering things. So they're kind of those things obviously, are need to be tuned. They can't be too tight to prevent users from doing what they need to do their job, but they also can't be set so loose as they're letting too much through. So it's all about a layered defense strategy. Likewise, you also need to continue, to educate users to be suspicious, and that security awareness training is a critical component. They are on the front lines, and use that human intuition. But there's links, the volume of links coming at users. There's over 300,000 new domains registered every day, every hour of every day. And so the volume of links coming through, and also the attack paths that we're seeing are evolving. So it's no longer that they're just phishing the inbox. They're phishing your LinkedIn messaging, your Facebook messaging, any other, WhatsApp was the origination of the Uber hack. So these messaging platforms are becoming weaponized. And so those links are presenting themselves in different ways that the user is typically trusting the links that they receive through those properties. And so it's getting harder and harder for them to discern what's good from bad. And we think another layer of technology is warranted.
And then as a CISO, as you mentioned, with all of this data, what's available to me kind of on the back end so I can see what's going on, with my user population, and how does that work?
Yeah, definitely. We call it post-processing. Actually, we don't want to reinvent a lot of the tools that are already out there. We'd rather integrate with a SIM, a SOAR platform to be able to route those things. But we definitely, within the platform, we show the isolated sessions, and we store those for a limited period of time. And then any of that can be opened for investigation if they want to dig deeper. We just had a client yesterday that went to one of their partners' websites that they go to fairly frequently, trusted it, but had been infected with malware. And we isolated that, alerted the team through into their SIM, and then they investigated, and sure enough, they realized that their partner site had been infected. So, it's still a bit manual on the back end in terms of like sending an alert, but we're low volume and high fidelity since we're only isolating what we think are the most risky web sessions.
And those are some great points. And, again, as organizations, work on their journey to true zero trust, I think it's important to be able to focus on endpoints, get the easy wins and get the quick wins, because going to, zero trust from a complete architecture perspective takes a while, and you don't want to leave yourself exposed. And again, the majority of things, of bad things, usually live on the endpoints or come there first. So by taking good, solid, cyber hygiene steps like this, you can probably save yourself 70% of the pain that a lot of organizations suffer right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's exactly right. We're still quantifying, that result. We are stopping, those issues in the browser before they even get to the endpoint. So we are still collecting data on, what sort of impact we're going to have on endpoint protection. We think it's really an opportunity, sort of with security awareness training plus a browser protection level like we offer, plus an MDR/endpoint solution, that combination really creates sort of next gen endpoint protection, and really protects against the evolving threat landscape.
That's great, and I really appreciate all your time today. And again, we've seen everything on the attacking the endpoints, and ransomware certainly isn't decreasing from what we've been seeing. So these types of steps are very important. So Brian, thanks so much for sharing your insights today.
You got it. Thanks for having me.